stimulus checks, bailouts, small business loan reliefs. My name is John, and today we're going to be delving into economics and the reason why I think hyperinflation is right down the pipeline. So now, you've seen all this money being thrown around from the government. $200 billion for the stimulus checks, $25 billion for airlines, and much, much more for small businesses and large corporations. Now, you might be wondering, where does this money come from? Well, the short answer is it's being printed. And you could look at this through what in economics what's called the money supply. So you can look at M0, which is physical coinage that they're printing. You could look at M1, which is created by fractional reserve banking. I'll make a video on that separate. And this basically is where the banks take some of your money, they loan it out, and they basically double spend it. Say you insert $1, they only have to keep 1%. They could loan out 99 cents. Someone could put that in another bank account, and they'd be credited for another 99 cents, as well as your dollar that was put in. And this is how banks actually create more money. And so looking at M0, M1, and M2, which also includes short-term reliefs or short-term and long-term deposits from your bank for interest rates, and even M3, which is really no longer used by the Federal Reserve, so we're not going to be really looking at that as much. So to start, let's go with M0, the physical stuff that's being printed. We have seen since COVID over $1 trillion physically printed by the United States government. And yet we really don't see that high of inflation right now. We actually, if you look at the consumer price index, we actually had a deflationary period for a while. And I'm going to be explaining why this is and why we're right around the same as we were before COVID and why I believe it's going to go up a lot higher from here. So now, looking at the numbers, we printed around $1 trillion, and this was just injected into the economy for bills and reliefs to help out small businesses and people alike. And regardless of your viewpoint on this, this is what happened. We could look at M1, which has increased by over $1 trillion on top of the $1 trillion that was printed. It was well over $1 trillion. We see that it's gone up $1.3 trillion. And this also has to do with the rate cuts. So right now, the banks are only required to have 0.1% of your money into their bank reserves. And they lowered this a lot lower than what it was. I believe it was around 10%. So now the banks are loaning out a lot more money because what that does is that in the short term injects, and even in the long term, injects a lot more liquidity into the market, creating a higher money supply. And another thing they did was they basically lowered the federal funds rate, which is basically the interest rate that the Fed loans to other banks. And so they're loaning money for around 0.25%, near 0% for getting this. And on top of that, they're inflating the dollar. So it's really, really cheap money that's going around. And when I say that, I mean money's flowing everywhere in every which direction. You can see this in the stock market right now. You look at the S&P 500. I believe today we are actually close to, if not, we are at an all-time high. Nope, barely down. 0.09% we're down. So we're basically break even, and a lot has changed in the economy. And this is because the reason why it's so high right now is because money's cheap right now. It really is. It's not that hard to get money right now. Sure, your wages haven't gone up, but it's flowing everywhere, and I feel it is definitely flowing more towards the business side. So they're gaining more relief than you and I are with our $1,200 stimulus checks, and I never actually received it. So they're basically injecting money really easily. We see the M2 stock flow. The monetary supply has actually gone up from $15 trillion to around $18 trillion. So that's $3 trillion has just been basically printed out of nothing. Nothing has changed. All that's been done is we increase the supply. And so now the supply has to equal the demand in economics. So the demand for the US dollar is going to go down. M3, we could even look at. Same thing with this. It's gone up by $3 trillion. And even the Federal Reserve's balance sheet, which is not directly printing money, but they're crediting money into the economy and loaning it to the Federal Reserve, just saying something's worth something when it's really not. They're just injecting credit into the economy, different than money because we're not actually printing money. It's just we're crediting it. So you see $3 trillion, and this has also been the reason why the stock market has been doing record highs. You look at the Dow and the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq's really far up, and you see the Nasdaq's hitting all-time highs every single day. It just hit another all-time high, and this is since COVID. It's just gone up parabolically, and you look at it, and the price for things since COVID hasn't really changed much. And you might be wondering why. We've injected all of this money into the economy, so now there's more money circulating around, and so aren't business owners are gonna raise their prices because just the value of the dollar is just not what it used to be, even 4 or 5 months ago. And the reason why we actually see deflation right now is because everyone is hoarding their cash. They get their stimulus checks and they know bad times are ahead. So they're just hoarding their money. And they're not really spending it as free flowing as you'd think. And so right now, not much has really changed. You see that it's been $2.59 for an average price versus $2.58. So we're still lower than we were before COVID happened. And this is because, like I said, everyone's hoarding their money. So I'll give you an example. I don't really know much about Pokemon, but I looked up very expensive cards, and it looks like this Pokemon trainer card is worth a lot of money. So now I'm just going to give the analogy. Right now it's worth a lot of money, and let's just say there's only 100 in circulation. So a lot of people want this in the Pokemon community. But what happens when Pokemon prints another 500? There's more flowing around. Sure, people might be collecting them and storing them because they feel it's valuable and they'd like to have that card. But what happens when things start to slow down and they want to put their Pokemon cards onto the market? We're going to see a drastic reduction in the price of these Pokemon cards because they're worth less. And that's basically what's going to happen to the US dollar. Once it starts free flowing again and people are spending their money a lot more, we're going to be seeing the US dollar basically lose its value. And this is when the inflation comes. This is when the hyperinflation hits. And the US government, the Federal Reserve, has been on record saying that they're going to try and let the printing press of the Federal Reserve run red hot. And this basically means that as long as they're just trying to keep inflation right around 2% this year, which right now they're not even at because people have been storing their cash. They haven't been putting it into the market. So they're going to keep doing this, and they're most likely going to overshoot because once that happens and people do want to start spending money again, business owners are going to realize they need more money to upkeep it because the value of the dollar is, like I said, just not what it used to be. And that is why you need to have your money into hard assets. You need to have it in real estate, stocks. I mean, I wouldn't really recommend stocks right now. They're at an all-time high, but real estate, stocks, physical currency, physical metals like gold, silver, platinum, palladium, all of those, and even straight up Bitcoin. This is what I've been preaching about. all of this stuff is going to have to go up in this hyperinflationary event because a house is always going to be worth one house. If there's more money in the market, then the house prices are going to go up. And this is why the rich keep getting richer. They don't keep cash, especially in times like this. You just saw Warren Buffett sell out of his banking stocks because he doesn't really feel that they're good ahead because we're lowering the money. Soon, we might even have to pay the bank to store our money. Like, is that ridiculous? We're loaning them money. How would you feel if I said, hey, can I borrow $100 from you? I'll only give you $99 back in like a week or two, but can I? It makes no sense. And this is why people are going to be jumping into assets that are hard capped. And they know their value of the thing they bought is going to stay constant or even go up with inflation. And this is why we're seeing all-time record highs in the S&P and many markets. Gold's hitting an all-time high. Silver's right around the corner. Bitcoin's just past 12,000 as of this recording, which it's just going to go up higher. The more they print, the more it's going to have to go up. And once we see all this money not only being injected into the market, but once it starts moving around, sloshing around, this is when we're going to see these hyperinflationary events. You could look at this from the past. In the past, you could look at how Germany went through a hyperinflationary event, Venezuela. All of these prices are just going to go up. They're going to go up so fast. And this is why you don't really want to keep working for your money. You want to have it working for you because the markets are being manipulated. There's money injected, free flow, or there's money injected all over the place, and they're not stopping. The coronavirus has not stopped, and we're not even at wave. We might be at wave 2. I don't really know, but it doesn't seem to be slowing down. And this is why you need to have your money in hard cap assets. So, thank you. I hope you learned something new about the federal funds rate, the money supply, and just something a little bit about economics, because economics are a great thing to learn, because without knowing the how to play the game, how are you ever going to be rich? If I played Monopoly right now and I didn't know how to play the game, would I really win the game? So that's important. That's why it's important to look into everything from finance to economics. And with that, I hope you had a good day, and I hope you learned something new. See you on the next video on Thursday.